On the eastern edge of the African continent, there is a geological wound that refuses to heal. It is a place where the rules of nature, as we understand them, seem to have been suspended in favor of a more violent, primordial order. This is the Danakil Depression. To the uninitiated, it appears as a sun-scorched void, a skeletal basin sitting more than 400 feet below the level of the sea. But to the geologist and the astrobiologist, Danakil is something far more significant. It is a window into the deep past of our planet, and perhaps a terrifying preview of its far-distant future. In this environment, the air does not merely carry heat. It carries the oppressive weight of sulfur, chlorine, and a relentless solar radiation that has scorched this Earth for millennia. Here, the thermometer frequently plateaus at 50 degrees Celsius, a temperature that pushes human physiology to its breaking point. This is widely considered the cruelest crucible on Earth, a sight so hostile that it challenges our very definitions of habitability. In this investigative documentary, we are venturing into the heart of this abyss. We will explore the tectonic forces tearing a continent apart, the chemical anomalies that defy biological norms, and the extraordinary resilience required to survive in a land that seems designed to repel life. This is the first chapter of our journey into the deepest, hottest, and most volatile corner of the African Rift. We are crossing the border into a territory where biology meets its absolute limit, the architecture of an alien world, right here on Earth. To comprehend the sheer violence of the Danakil landscape, one must first look beneath the surface. We are standing at the Afar Triple Junction, a rare and spectacular geological phenomenon where three of the Earth's tectonic plates are pulling away from each other in a slow-motion divorce. The Arabian, Nubian, and Somalian plates are diverging, stretching the Earth's lithosphere to its breaking point. Imagine the Earth's crust as a piece of hot taffy being pulled from three sides. At the center of this pull, the material becomes thin, fragile, and begins to sag. This is precisely what has happened here. Because the crust in the Danakil is so thin, often less than 10 miles thick compared to the global average of 25, the molten mantle of our planet is perilously close to the surface. The ground is literally sagging under its own weight, creating a massive, sunken basin. This subsidence has dropped the Danakil more than 100 meters below sea level. In geological time, what we are witnessing is the birth of a new ocean. In several million years, the Red Sea will inevitably breach the volcanic highlands that currently act as a fragile barrier. When that happens, this entire depression will vanish, replaced by a deep sea that will officially split the African continent in two. We are, quite literally, walking on the floor of a future ocean, documenting a landscape that is destined to be buried under miles of salt water. This thinning of the crust creates a thermal furnace. Because the magma is so close to the surface, the ground itself radiates heat. In Danakil, you are being cooked from two directions, the sun from above and the mantle from below. This dual thermal assault is what makes the region the hottest inhabited place on the planet. It is a land of fire, even where there are no visible flames. Within this vast depression lies Danakil, a hydrothermal field unlike any other on the terrestrial map. If you were to stand here without specialized equipment, your first sensation would be the smell, a pungent, suffocating mixture of sulfur dioxide and chlorine gas. This is the scent of a planet in its rawest form. Danakil is a site of perpetual volcanic unrest, where rainwater seeps deep into the fractured earth, only to meet the searing heat of subterranean magma chambers. This water becomes superheated and saturated with a lethal cocktail of minerals, sulfur, iron, magnesium, and salt. Under immense pressure, this boiling brine is forced back to the surface. As the water evaporates in the blistering heat, it leaves behind a surreal, polychromatic architecture of salt. The vibrant yellows are the signature of native sulfur. The deep, bloody reds are the result of iron oxide, and the electric greens are produced by copper salts and magnesium. But do not let the staggering beauty of these colors deceive you. These pools are hyperacidic and hypersaline. The pH levels here have been measured as low as 0, and in some instances, they enter the negative range. This is liquid that is more acidic than the juice of a lemon and more corrosive than car battery acid. This is water that can dissolve metal, melt rubber, and liquefy biological tissue in a matter of hours. Dalil is a chemical void, a rare place on our planet that is naturally sterile because the combination of acid, salt, and heat creates a barrier that biological life simply cannot breach. Why is the Danakil Depression so relentlessly hot? It is not merely its proximity to the equator. It is a matter of atmospheric physics. Because the depression is so far below sea level, it acts as a massive thermal sink. As hot air rises from the dark volcanic rocks and the reflective white salt flats, it cannot escape. The high walls of the Ethiopian highlands to the west and the Danakil Alps to the east create a rain shadow and a wind barrier. The air is trapped in a closed loop, circulating and reheating with every pass over the scorched earth. This is adiabatic heating at its most extreme. As air descends from the surrounding highlands into the basin, it compresses. In the laws of thermodynamics, when you compress a gas, its temperature rises. By the time this air reaches the bottom of the basin, it has become a dry, searing wind that seeks out moisture with a predatory intensity. In the United States, we look at Death Valley as a seasonal anomaly, a place of extreme heat that relents during the winter months. But in Danakil, these temperatures are the baseline. It is a permanent thermal siege. There is no relief at night. The basaltic rocks and the deep salt beds hold the thermal energy of the day and radiate it back into the atmosphere, maintaining a baseline of heat that would be lethal to most mammals within hours of exposure. This constant thermal pressure is what defines the Danakil experience, a relentless, 24-hour assault on the senses. The floor of the Danakil Depression is paved with a colossal layer of salt. In some areas, these deposits are estimated to be over 5 kilometers thick, a staggering accumulation of mineral wealth that has been deposited over millions of years. This salt is the legacy of ancient floods. Periodically, the Red Sea has breached the volcanic barriers, flooding the depression with salt water, only to be cut off again by tectonic shifts. Each time the sea was trapped here, the extreme heat evaporated the water, leaving behind a thick layer of evaporite minerals. Over eons, these layers built up, creating one of the largest salt pans on Earth. But this salt is not static. Because of the intense heat and the tectonic movement below, the salt crust is constantly cracking, heaving, and reforming. It is a living, breathing landscape of minerals. This salt crust is more than just a geological feature. It is a thermal insulator. It reflects the solar radiation back into the air while trapping the heat of the magma below. Walking on this surface is like walking on the skin of a giant, molten organism. Every step is a reminder that the ground beneath you is not solid rock, but a transient layer of minerals separating you from the volatile interior of the planet. It is this unique intersection of water, fire, and salt that makes the Danakil the ultimate geological enigma. The Danakil is classified as a hyper-arid climate, a designation reserved for the driest places on Earth. In many years, the total rainfall is measured in single digits, and in some cycles, it does not rain at all. This extreme dryness is caused by the rain shadow effect of the Ethiopian highlands. As moist air from the Atlantic and Indian Oceans moves toward the depression, it is forced upward by the mountains. As the air rises, it cools and drops its moisture on the mountain peaks, leaving the air that eventually descends into the Danakil completely stripped of its humidity. This descending air is thirsty. It aggressively absorbs any moisture it encounters on the surface. This is why you will see no rivers flowing through the heart of the Danakil, and why the rare flash floods that do occur vanish into the ground or evaporate within minutes. This lack of water is what preserves the jagged, sharp-edged geology of the region. Without the erosion of rain, the land remains a raw, unpolished record of volcanic activity. We have explored the architecture of this alien world, from the tectonic divorce that created its sunken floor to the chemical chaos of the Danakil hydrothermal fields. We have seen how physics and geography have conspired to create a thermal trap that defies the norms of our planet. The Danakil Depression is not merely a place of suffering. It is a place of profound scientific revelation. It shows us what happens when the Earth's protective crust is stripped away, revealing the raw power of the interior. But the Danakil has more secrets to reveal. Beneath the salt and the acid lies a heart of fire that has burned for millions of years. In the next chapter of our journey, we will move from the chemical abyss to the volcanic peaks. We will ascend the smoking heights of Erta Ale to witness a permanent lake of fire and explore how this extreme environment is helping NASA search for life among the stars. The first part of our investigation is complete, but the most dangerous terrain lies ahead. This is the architecture of an alien world, and the fire is just beginning to rise. If the acid fields of Danakil represent the chemical lethality of the Danakil, then Erta Ale represents its raw, kinetic power. Known by the indigenous Afar as the Smoking Mountain, Erta Ale is one of the most active volcanoes on Earth and a member of an elite group of volcanoes that host a permanent lava lake. While most volcanoes remain dormant for decades between violent eruptions, Erta Ale has been in a state of continuous activity for over a century. It is a direct vent into the Earth's mantle, a place where the planet's internal heat is not merely felt, but seen in its most primal form. The geology of Erta Ale is classified as a shield volcano. Unlike the steep, conical peaks of Mount St. Helens or Vesuvius, Erta Ale has broad, gently sloping sides, formed by the repeated eruption of highly fluid basaltic lava. Standing on the rim of the caldera, you are witnessing the circulatory system of our planet. The surface of the lava lake is often covered by a thin, black skin of cooling rock, which is constantly being ripped apart and swallowed by the glowing orange magma beneath. This process, known as crustal recycling, is a microscopic version of plate tectonics, showing us how the Earth's entire surface was once shaped and reshaped by fire. The heat radiating from the lake is staggering, often exceeding 2,100 degrees Fahrenheit. The air is thick with hazardous gases, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and hydrogen fluoride. To film or study here requires specialized respirators and thermal shielding. Yet, it is this very violence that makes Erta Ale so valuable to science. It provides a rare opportunity to study the behavior of magma in a controlled, continuous environment. It is a window into the furnace that drives the movement of continents and the birth of new land. In the 21st century, the Danakil Depression has taken on a new significance that transcends our own planet. It has become one of the premier testing grounds for the burgeoning field of astrobiology. NASA, The European Space Agency and various planetary research institutes view Danakil as a Mars analog, a site on Earth that closely mimics the environmental conditions of the red planet as it might have appeared billions of years ago. When we look at Mars today, we see a frozen, irradiated desert. But geological evidence suggests that Mars was once home to salty, acidic lakes and active volcanic systems. By studying the chemical interactions in the hydrothermal vents of Dalil and the volcanic gases of Erta Ale, scientists are learning how to search for the chemical biosignatures of ancient life among the stars. If life ever existed on Mars, it would have had to endure the same types of hypersaline, high temperature, and acidic conditions that define the Danakil. Furthermore, the Danakil serves as a proving ground for robotic exploration. The extreme heat and corrosive dust of the depression provide a brutal stress test for the sensors and mechanical components used on planetary rovers. A camera or a drill that can survive a month in the Danakil is far more likely to survive a decade on the Martian surface. Every data point collected here, every soil sample analyzed for extremophilic DNA, is a brick in the bridge we are building to the rest of the solar system. We are not just exploring Ethiopia, we are rehearsing for our future among the stars. Despite the chemical lethality and the crushing thermal pressure, the Danakil is not empty. It is the ancestral home of the Afar people, one of the most resilient ethnic groups on the planet. For over a millennium, the Afar have acted as the sovereign guardians of this basin, adapting their culture and their biology to conditions that would repel almost any other human population. They do not view this landscape as a wasteland. They view it as a fortress and a source of life-sustaining commerce. The economic heartbeat of the Afar society is the white gold, the massive blocks of salt hand-carved from the floor of the depression. Every day, thousands of camels descend into the basin to be loaded with salt slabs, which are then transported on a grueling, multi-day trek to the highlands of Ethiopia. This salt trade is a relic of an ancient world, a labor-intensive system that has remained unchanged for centuries. The workers perform back-breaking labor in temperatures that often exceed 120 degrees Fahrenheit, working with tools and techniques passed down through generations. For the Afar, survival is a matter of calculated endurance. Their relationship with the Danakil is one of profound respect and strategic navigation. They understand the rhythms of the heat and the volatile moods of the volcanoes. Their presence here is a powerful testament to the plasticity of the human species. It proves that humanity is not just a creature of temperate climates, but a biological force capable of carving out a civilization in the heart of Earth's most hostile environment. They are the human element in a landscape that seems designed to exclude us. We must realize that the Danakil Depression as we see it today is merely a snapshot in a massive, ongoing geological transformation. We are standing in the cradle of a new ocean. The tectonic divorce between the Arabian and African plates is irreversible. As the depression continues to sink and the rift continues to widen, the day will inevitably come when the Red Sea breaches the volcanic barriers to the north. When that cataclysmic event occurs, the Danakil will vanish. The acid pools of Dalil and the salt trails of the Afar will be buried under thousands of feet of salt water. Ethiopia will have a new coastline, and the Horn of Africa will officially become a massive island, detached from the mainland. This process, known as rifting, is the same mechanism that separated South America from Africa millions of years ago. In the Danakil, we are not just looking at a desert. We are looking at the floor of the Afar Sea, millions of years before its birth. It is a reminder that the Earth is a dynamic, living entity, a planet that is never finished, only in a state of constant, violent becoming. Our journey through the Danakil Depression has taken us from the chemical abyss to the summit of fire. We have explored the limits of biology and the frontiers of space exploration. The Danakil is a place of paradoxes. It is a land of death that teaches us about the origin of life. It is a wasteland that holds the key to the stars. It is a site of extreme suffering that showcases the pinnacle of human resilience. It reminds us that our planet is not a static stage, but a powerful and unpredictable force. The Danakil is one of Earth's most extreme environments, but it is also one of its most enlightening. It strips away the comforts of the modern world and leaves us with the raw essentials of existence: fire, water, salt, and the indomitable will to survive. As we leave this scorched basin, we carry with us a new understanding of our world's violent beauty and our own place within its grand, geological design. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of the cruelest crucible. For more investigations into the world's most forbidden and extreme environments, subscribe to Stellan Croft. Because in the most hostile corners of our planet, we often find the greatest truths about ourselves and the universe we inhabit.